I was reading through like some of the comments on your latest video. It's kind of funny how similar they are to like the ones that I get on like what on some of my more like controversial ones. It's like, no, you're wrong.
Honestly, that
Actually, an RPG is this.
yeah, honestly, that like seeing you specifically, like you be unafraid to do loads of those hot takes was actually a bit of a kick up the arse for me because I sort of realised over the years I'd gotten a bit safe with my stuff and I
Right.
wanted to get back to upsetting people more. So
Yeah.
I've started doing that again, and it's been refreshing to aggravate people.
Hmm.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's fun to upset people sometimes. Uh, Intentionally. When you do it intentionally and carefully is good. It's good. I don't know
Yeah,
what's
I've
up
learned
with you.
that like no matter how many bases that you cover, people will always find something. They'll always be
Yeah,
like,
people.
actually, it's
Oh yeah,
this.
yeah. No matter how much you obsessively over edit and self criticize, there will always be that one comment that will come up and it will completely skewer something you said. And like, oh, great, fine. Now I have to make it all over again.
Yeah. Anyway, Sonic the Hedgehog sucks.
Most of Sonic the Hedgehog sucks. Like,
Only
eight.
Sonic Unleashed is good. Hello, welcome to Video Gems. I am your host.
What a lead in! Totally off guard.
Hello, hello, welcome to Video Gems, the podcast where we bring some poor sod every approximately a month, and we aggressively compliment them until they beg us to stop. I am your host, Darkfry, eater of birds, joined by my co-host, Harry Video Games Are Bad.
Hello.
Aeronaut is sadly not joining us this time, but it's okay. We have a wonderful guest once again with us today. Adam, introduce yourself.
Hi, I'm Adam. You probably know me more as my silly YouTube channel name, The Architect of Games. I'm very proud to be here among two of my, my big inspirations, Darkfry and Harry. I've, really working towards living up to their great career, and I'm a
Of
huge fan
course.
of theirs.
Of course.
So we have Adam with us today, who, especially to mine and Harry's audience, probably needs no introduction, but we did it anyway.
It's too late.
Uh,
You can't take it
yeah,
back
yeah.
now.
Self proclaimed aspiring emperor of Earth, I believe, too.
Where's that? Oh,
Um,
is that on my Twitter?
Yes,
It just shows how little I use it.
that's your Twitter. That's your Twitter bio.
And it might be upwards of 5 years old.
Oh my god. Now look,
And
listen.
since this podcast is going to come out in like a month's time, for those of you who don't remember, Twitter was a website where you could like post small things. They were called tweets, and yeah, people liked it, and then something happened basically. For those who don't
Yeah.
know,
It's like it used to occupy that X-shaped crater in America.
yeah,
Yeah. So I have this big thing, right, where I hate the word aspiring. I hate it. I hate it. I hate it when I see people use it to describe themselves or include it in bios like aspiring game developer, aspiring voice actor. Like if you voice act, if you make games, you're a game developer, you're a voice actor, you gotta knock it off with that aspiring shit. And Adam, I'm sorry, you're not an exception. You you
Maybe,
got you got to take that shit out. Are you the emperor of the world or are you not?
sadly, I'm not.
Yeah.
Maybe in my heart, I am.
Well, if in your heart of hearts that you believe that you are the emperor of Earth, then you are. You gotta just put that shit down. I have poet in my Twitter bio, in my X bio. I never wrote a poet. That's just a lie. It's
it
just
saves
untrue.
characters as well. You don't have to write out the word aspiring. You can fit more sort of like you can fit more stuff in there. You could, baker. I can't
Be a
think of anything
baker.
else.
Oh, no, I think those are the two professions, right? It's poet
Yeah.
and baker. That's it.
Poet and a baker.
Yeah.
I mean, that sounds pretty good, actually.
All right, so Adam, your creative process for YouTube, you've been doing it a while,
Mm-hmm.
a long while.
Oh, let's say that.
How long have you been doing it, actually?
I think it's maybe. I think it's coming up on 5 years.
5 years.
maybe?
Goddamn. That's,
I think it's either 5 or slightly over 5 now, which is terrifying to think about, and I try
That
not
is-
to.
Yeah, that is a number of years. All right. Goddamn. All right. So, how did you find your style to be the architect of games?
So I found my style by relentlessly and unapologetically copying Mark Brown, and it wasn't until about 2 years after that that I started doing good things. But yeah, I think to answer the question in slightly more detail, I think a lot of my sort of influences draw from sort of the slightly earlier than the current wave of video essay style stuff. Sort of like I don't know, you guys must have heard of like Egoraptor's Sequelitis and that kind of vibe of slightly less professional, more just sort of like an enthusiastic talking for an abstract length of time about something cool in video games and getting across that genuine sort of fan to fan of the medium interaction was kind of the lodestone I wanted to build the channel around, rather than it being a sort of more academic thing or this is a nuts and bolts guide to how to actually build video games. This is just here is a cool thing. I'm going to explain why that thing is cool in a way that you might not have thought about.
I really love that you answered so bluntly and honestly to the copying Mark Brown thing, because that's totally just such a big step in the whole process, right? Like,
Oh, 100%, yeah. You can't.
I'm guilty of that with Sequelitis. Like, Sequelitis is definitely the biggest influence on my content. I don't know if you can tell, but to the point where I actually made a Sequelitis, between Super Metroid and Metroid Prime, and then Fusion to Dread. I actually framed those videos as Sequelitises, and you do just copy someone who you admire or like until you find the fork in the path, find your own way to diverge from that, to make your own spin on it. So it's not really something to be ashamed about, as many people maybe think it is. It's part of the process.
Yeah, I
That's
think
just how
everybody
it
has a lineage. I've been watching more and more sort of video essays on film recently, and it's very clear that a lot of them, especially the smaller channels, are heavily inspired by Nerdwriter, where they've got all of this fancy editing and lo-fi music and things like that. So yeah, I feel like everybody has that kind of lineage. I like to
Yeah.
call it a lineage. I think everybody that we've had on so far you can probably trace back to one channel or another, I'd say.
Yeah, well, I think that's sort of the evolutionary nature of it. I think it's right to call it a lineage because it's really you're in an inspiration sense. You are the next generation of an evolutionary line of the people who inspired you, and then you'll add in some random mutationary genetic information of your own to create a new thing that will then presumably go on to inspire someone else.
Yes,
Much like
and
RPGs before them.
Oh, who knew what was on my mind a month before this came out?
like, like I know for a fact that I have inspired some other creators to do scripted video essay content while VTubing. Like I got messages from people that were like, "Hey, you inspired me to do this, and here's the video I made," and it's just so cool that, you know, I put my different spin on it, or whatever, or one of the different spins on it, and already that's like hitting a chord with people, you know. It's just so good. So, how did you land on the Architect of Games moniker?
Oh God. Okay.
Yeah, I want to know this.
All right. Bear with me. Okay, so it comes with the caveat that I never expected anyone to actually watch the videos. The original couple of them were basically made with an intended audience of maybe at most 6 people, and the name is a reference to like a central character in an RPG that I used to run for a group of friends, like 8 or 9 years ago now. Like the architect was a character of, and then so I just all right, fine, that's going to be just a visual theme and sort of a general reference that I'm making for this tiny group of people to appreciate. And then people started watching the videos, and it was a really stupid name because it implies I make video games when I really don't.
That's cool. I like that as like an origin story.
But yeah, and so I've had to do a lot of retroactive apologizing for the name, but it's now been grandfathered in, and I can't get rid of it.
I can strongly relate. I was like, oh, just call it Video Games Are Bad. Nobody's gonna watch it.
I don't know. Have I ever shared my name origin story?
I don't think so.
I don't remember.
I can't recall.
I don't remember if I did, but like, okay, so, the name Darkfry is not a Futurama reference. I didn't know about Futurama until after anyway. So when I was like 13 and I made this and I came up with this name, the thought process was, so Dark is my favorite Pokemon type. No, wait, no. I got that backwards. Darkrai is my favorite Pokemon. And Fire is my favorite Pokemon type. So I combined those and made Darkfry, because like a fire, put like a fire name on.
That's way too confusing. This is going to be like
Darkrai.
the Joker origin story. He's going to come on next time and just tell like another one. So what's that? So your
Listen,
favorite
it makes
Pokemon
sense.
was Darkrai?
Do you want to know how I got this username?
Do you know? and like dramatic music plays while I explain how I had to mesh the fire type with Darkrai, the Pokemon that puts you to sleep.
We have a new Darkrai bit. We've done it. The merging of creative minds. In the next video, you're going to see it.
Meanwhile, Harry, your thought process was that video games fucking suck.
Yeah.
Yeah, goddamn.
Well,
True.
I think I've said this before. My origin story was like, haha, video games are bad.co.uk is available to purchase. That sounds funny. That's it.
That's quite good.
That's the
Yeah, I like
origin
that.
story.
Wait, I didn't know that like the website came before the channel.
Oh yeah,
I didn't know
definitely.
that.
Yeah. The website came before the channel.
Do you still
I didn't
update
talk
that,
about
by
the
the
website
way? I
anymore.
didn't.
Yeah, I still put the videos on there, but I don't write anything.
Ah,
Sad
that
times.
was that site's really cool. I'm considering like doing the same. For when
Unfortunately,
I-
the website doesn't pay me pounds a month, so it's YouTube for now.
Yeah. Well, not that YouTube pays any better. Well, I guess it kind of does. I don't know. There's bad and then there's worse.
It's
So
bad, and then there's zero.
yeah, there's
It's better than there's active drain on finances.
on that note, patreon.com/darkfry. There are bonus things there.
That was your
and-
chance, Adam. You have to get in there as well.
Yeah, on another slightly larger note, patreon.com/thearcticgames.
There we
Yeah.
go.
Yeah, bonus episode, all the bonus things on there.
Bonus things, bonus patron things.
Hell yeah. So, Adam, one thing I want to talk about, right, is that channels like ours that talk about game design and games in what can be perceived as in some sort of authoritative manner, right? Run into an interesting problem, which is that game design is fake.
Yeah, all game designers are hacks. I'm going to go on
Yeah.
record and say that.
It just does not exist.
that's
It's a ruse. They are suggestions at best. So, like, how do you deal with that when writing?
So I think my take on it is that I actively, again, in direct contrast to the name of the channel, I'm sorry, okay, is that I do not try to talk in that authoritative sense. I don't try to say, okay, this is how you make games, this is what a good game is, this is the way video games are constructed. I sort of try and phrase it in a more either a personal language and framing device, or okay, let's pick apart why this works or why this doesn't work, rather than trying to make a kind of objective, universal point. Because I would feel uncomfortable speaking from a position of authority, saying to real developers who make real games how to actually do the thing they do, which I have very little practical experience of.
But that's the thing, right? What I'm. The thing is that no matter how you actually write the videos, like it comes off unintentionally.
Oh, unavoidably, yeah.
Yeah, unavoidably and unintentionally. You as someone who like makes a video about a topic after researching it and like putting it into words and collecting footage for it and editing it together and like putting it out there for an audience of people to like consume and internalize and engage with the ideas you're putting out, like no matter what, it's just gonna come up. Like that's how it's gonna be perceived, and it's a thing that I think about a lot when I read like comments and whatever. Like I don't know. It's just some people at least doesn't happen that much with me. Like seem to.
Is it? Do you think it's like the? I think people don't realize that like anyone can do this, right? In theory,
Yes.
like as long as you
Yeah,
have
exactly.
the kind of framework to express your ideas or whatever, you too can like make a YouTube video.
Yeah.
And I guess is what you're trying to say, that like these particular comments that sort of try to evaluate these videos as if they are an authority, kind of try and elevate us onto a pedestal when we're not really there. Anyone can, in theory, make a YouTube video, right? Would you agree,
Yeah.
Adam?
Yeah, it's interesting. I think it's a lot of that, at least as it takes place on the internet and places like YouTube in particular, and especially as it relates to video games, is because games don't really have that critical and academic foundation that other art forms do. If you're, say, an art critic or a music critic or something like that, even on an amateur basis, there is sort of a form and an expectation and a tradition that you can refer back to that distinguishes you from just someone making an offhanded comment or someone complaining that X song or album isn't good. But video games and YouTube, there is this conflation between, I think in large part due to how accessible it is, that anyone can make sweeping statements about how things ought to be, and we as people who do things professionally, or at least on a dedicated level, we often don't have a great way of distinguishing what we do as sort of analysis and criticism from actual guides and more objective information on how to make games.
Yeah, and I don't know why, but like sometimes there's this need to like be perceived as like someone who, oh, this guy sort of knows what he's talking about, or like has good takes, or like one thing I worry about, right, is what if when I actually release a game, people hate it, and so it's and so any video I put out or any game I put out is like, oh, this is the guy that I won't play this game because this is the guy that does these videos, or I won't you like how these things can like conflict with each other. It's weird to.
If
weird
that's
to,
the
like,
case, though,
think about.
how's Mark Brown gonna survive when he releases his Magnet game?
No,
Nobody's
yeah,
gonna
like
nobody's gonna buy it.
yeah, it's like goddamn. What if like I don't want to like speculate on that. I'm sure that game's gonna be good. I'm sure like Mark Brown is working really hard on it and like is being very careful about it for this specific reason, right? It's like
Yeah,
is
I
that
don't
gonna
I don't
hurt
envy
the
his position.
credibility? Yeah, it's tricky. Talking about video games is hard.
Are you
Hard.
thinking about making a video game, Adam? Because then you wouldn't have this problem with the whole architect of games thing. 'Cause then
Yeah,
you'd be like,
so-
yes, I have done it.
So I think I have done bits and pieces of game design just sort of as a hobby in my free time. Like I've just almost just as a sort of very abstract creative exercise. Like I've designed like some Magic the Gathering sets and like just some tabletop RPG systems, just because that doesn't require knowing how to code or do art, two things I'm bad at. So yeah, but I think that I kind of want to avoid that association of being someone who actually makes games and publishes them and stuff. I know a lot of people in sort of our general sphere do want to use their experience and knowledge to like create games and sort of transition into actually practicing what they preach. But I think that there's just as much worth in making that distinction between a critic and creative, if that makes any sense. Like you wouldn't expect a food critic to also be a master chef. Those are two
Right,
different
yeah.
professions.
Yeah. It's still like something. It's still like something I think about a lot, even though I maybe shouldn't. As in, like I build this sort of try building this sort of community, right? And something that I really that strikes me about your videos and your community, Adam, is that your audience seems to like really trust your taste.
I wish they wouldn't, but yeah, that's interesting. Yeah, I think a lot of to speak very cynically about the videos, I think large part of why people actually watch them is just for like game recommendations, because I think I tend to play way more of them and to talk about some slightly more obscure games that other sort of equivalently popular people do. But equally, I mean, on that note, it's sort of unrelated, but I try not to have a community. I don't want one. I don't want people to treat me as an authority at all.
Really?
Yeah, because
Yeah, I can relate
we're
to
going.
this.
Yeah, I think we're going way off topic from the the whole perception as being a developer or a critic or whatever. But yeah, I think a large thing that I've always wanted to do with the channel, basically from the outset, is I didn't want a fan base of any sort, and that's why I don't have a Discord channel, and why I don't refer to my fans as like a pet name, and why I'm not particularly active on social media. Is just because I feel like that element of being a someone who is a creative and makes media and does position themselves implicitly or not as an authority tends to bring in some sort of weird parasocial stuff that I don't want to deal with, and would also end up negatively reflecting on the videos completely out of my control.
Yeah, I think that's completely fair. It's kind of like sort of the side of YouTube and making YouTube videos that you didn't necessarily sign up for. It's kind of like a kind of unintended consequence, right? Like,
Yeah, pretty much. I think obviously we would not be doing this if we did not have some sort of gaping, unquenchable hole in our egos that can only be filled by making YouTube videos. But also, yeah, I think a lot of people do want the fan base and they want the praise and the adulation and to have a bunch of people who they know listen to them and respect them. And I could not care less about that. If I made the videos and got paid the same and no one watched them, I would be perfectly happy. It's
which, like, on paper,
something you got to deal with.
on paper, I don't know whether to like to people looking on the outside that maybe sounds like a kind of terrible thing to say, but like I completely understand it. Like,
Yeah, it's an unintuitive thing, but I think hopefully you guys maybe at least understand where I'm coming from. There is that, yeah, that I want to do the video making bit. I don't want to do the social media management bit, which is unfortunately a huge part of the job.
Well, yeah, I completely understand that, but like, still, when you make these videos, like, what I mean when I say that, like, your community seems to trust, like, your taste is that, some people, like, are fans of your videos and stick around and watch all of your content, and when you recommend a game, or when you talk positively about something and stuff like that, like, they'll listen and they'll, like, try things out beyond their horizons. Or relevant to us, when you recommend other YouTubers, like having, like, I think it's like, even if you, like, want to distance yourself from that aspect of it, like, having such a, like, a community that trusts, like, the things you recommend and the things you talk positively about and stuff like that, that's pretty rare, I think.
Is it?
And
yeah, I
it's
think
a-
your
it's
your
really
audience
cool,
is
yeah.
definitely, at least in my experience, very receptive to channel recommendations.
nice.
I'll say that for sure.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
That's right. Yeah, it's definitely it is really nice to see. Going on to that topic, when I do recommend someone, there'll always be, like, bare minimum, like, a couple of thousand people will dogpile their latest video, and that's always good. So these people have,
Yes.
clearly trust me enough to go where the good videos are.
So a few
Yeah.
things about that, right? First of all, it's really cool that you do this and recommend people. We'll get into your reasons for doing that in a bit. Second of all, it's really cool that you shouted me out specifically. And third of all, I don't know if I told you this, Adam. When the video, I think it was your video about crafting systems and games.
Oh yes, yeah, making good crafting systems, or
Yeah,
whatever
yeah.
I called it.
When that video came out, where you recommended my Dark Souls video, I was streaming when it came out.
Okay.
So essentially, what happened is you raided my stream.
Right.
And I had so many people come into my chat and being like, Adam Miller recommended your channel, Adam Miller recommended your channel, the Architect of Games recommended your channel. I was sent here by the Architect of Games, and stuff like that. It was such a wild experience. Like, I still think about it a lot.
That sounds completely overwhelming. Like, just surprise.
Yeah.
I found that they stick around as
It was
well.
incredible.
It's like, because I always think the danger of, like, recommending channels is that, like, your audience will subscribe and then they just won't watch any of their videos. but that doesn't seem to be the case. They like always stick around and keep watching.
No, they stuck around. Like I
Yeah.
know for a fact that a lot of them stuck around.
Yeah, I think that the quality of the videos speak for themselves. I just got them there. You kept them there.
Yeah, and it's just so wild. I still think about that moment. It was so good. I need to get back to streaming, man. Like like thinking about that.
So how did
But
this
yeah.
whole recommendation thing at the end sort of get started?
Okay, so I'm bracing myself to get shouted at by Darkfry. So I'm gonna power through. So my
It's fine. I'm gonna try to be nice.
my fundamental motivation for doing it is basically a crippling sense of guilt and imposter syndrome. As like when the channel sort of really took off about like 3 or 4 years ago, and I started getting big, I've realized that all my things I've made are terrible. I don't deserve any of this. They're all bad. These people are wrong. The least I can do as a morally minded person is point these poor deluded idiots in the direction of something that's actually good and that I have cruelly stolen success from. And so that's what I started doing. It's a way of easing my conscience and helping myself psychologically get over the newfound possibility of doing YouTube as a career, is to to shunt my fan base in the direction of people who I think are genuinely better at doing this than me. And so I sort of never stopped doing it, and it's now a proud tradition that I have. Amazingly, I'm nowhere near running out of recommendations for. My list is absolutely huge. I think I've recommended everyone on the podcast. No, I've not. I've not done Aranok yet. Actually, I should do that. I should get around to doing that because she's done some great stuff.
That's good.
So,
does that mean you
okay,
have does that mean you have like a spreadsheet of like channels? So you're like, yes.
Well,
I think this week
it's more of a notepad document that's sort of loosely organized, and I just sort of, whenever I have an idea or see a good video and I deem them worthy, I'll put them on the notepad, and then I'll gradually go down the list. Or if there's one I feel like I want to shout out that's relevant or I've become obsessed with, I'll do them. But yeah, it's now there's at least 30 people on there that I've started to go through, so I'm sorted for a while yet.
You're quite the avid consumer of videos, from what I've seen. Is it-
Yeah, it's a lot of the time I will just sort of watch videos in the background when I'm doing other stuff, and the ones that manage to get me to pause the video game I'm currently playing and watch them, they're the one that's like the barometer for, okay, this is worth sort of taking notice of and actively watching their other stuff.
Oh damn! All right, like yeah, I'm just saying that, like, just finding that all of these creators, it is in and of itself sort of impressive, because of just how YouTube works.
Yeah, well, a lot of them sort of come from cross-pollinated recommendations from other people. It's I think that's sort of the good thing of being in a loose confederated community, is that even if some people are not getting noticed by the algorithm, they can at least propagate themselves within video essay people, and then people like me who actually have the reach can get them outside of that bubble.
Aside from that, this is the part where I yell at you now.
Oh god! All right, go for it. I'm ready.
So first of all, it's very interesting that you just called your fans idiots.
Wow, they like me. I can't trust their judgment. That's right.
Anyway, but you are legitimate. Like, I think at least you are like legitimately good at what you do, and like have this this way of writing that like really flows well from one point to the other, so you can bring up a lot of stuff and make each thing you bring up interesting, and stuff like that. It's given me, like, I think that since I like discovered your channel, like I've learned a lot from it too, like for my videos, like how to like that style of writing. Like I can definitely like see um some influence in the way I write now from you. So don't you dare undermine yourself, Adam. Makes me angry. I'm gonna drop kick you the next time you do it. This is your drop kick warning.
Okay, look, I've gotten all the self-deprecation out of the way. I'm going to be.
Yeah,
We can focus on the positives.
Positive.
Positive
now
energy.
For the.
But also, like, you know, one of my goals is to be able to give these big, meaningful shout-outs like that. It's because they're so good. They're so good, they're so effective, and they are how people grow in today's YouTube environment. That's how it happens. That's just how it's done. In today's algorithm.
Yeah, pretty much. It sort of sucks, and I think, as you say in your video, literally about this subject, is that there is no conceivable world in which the algorithm does the job people want it to do.
Yeah.
So it does ultimately fall to us to sort of fill that gap.
Yeah, exactly. Like you cannot depend on an algorithm, a piece of code, to be able to actually like give and recommend the most deserving people and give them success. But you can depend on people and creators to do that. You know, creators lifting each other up, helping each other out, like shout outs, collabs, just communities of like-minded people coming together. That's how it happens. So I genuinely want to see more people do what you do and not be afraid to like recommend other people or shout out other people or we talked about it in this podcast a lot, quote other people in citations and like in video essays or whatever. Just involve other people, lift them up, let them lift you up. That's just how the magic happens.
We're all
it's so
going to
good.
be stacked on top of each other, and eventually we'll be able to escape the atmosphere,
Yeah.
reach the moon. Oh,
Yeah,
actually,
yeah,
no,
I
I ruined it with that last one because that's like a crypto thing, isn't it? Ugh.
We've
Forget about
got
that. We're just going to escape the atmosphere. We're not going to get to the moon. It's fine.
diamond hands. Is that one of them? Is that what the crypto people say? I don't know.
Stuff it out of it.
Yeah, I think that though that is good. It's sort of one thing that I sort of want to do more and want to see more is sort of developing that critical landscape where we can sort of reference and respond to each other in a way that isn't just, oh, you think this video game's good? Well, I think it's bad, and I'm going to make a response video about it where I watch your video and complain about it, which sucks most of the time. But instead, you know, much in the same way that, you know, academics do, although ideally in a slightly less boring way, can say like, oh, hey, look, Harry brought up this point in his video. Here's an addendum to that I'm going to use to enrich my point and sort of have a little bit more texture rather than just having a bunch of people working in parallel but never really interacting.
You sort of did that unintentionally, or I don't know if unintentionally, but like, you both made videos about Terra Nil.
Ah, right, yeah. I think me and Harry, despite the videos we made, I think we might actually agree quite a lot on Terra Nil being a.
Yeah, that's the thing, right? And I wanted to bring it up because it's such an interesting like little difference between you and those videos because you pretty much agree on all the things. Like both of you call the reverse city building catchphrase nonsense.
It's 100% a marketing line, yeah.
Yeah. And that it doesn't have friction and that it's sort of like doesn't really say what it doesn't really do what it says it does anyway. Um, but but I find it interesting, Adam, that you managed to find a way to spin it as a sort of positive, and like make this interesting point about the anti-games.
Yeah, so I think with Terra Nil specifically, I think it is on a gameplay level deeply flawed in a sense that I would have a hard time saying with a straight face that it's like a good game. However, it is an interesting game that does interesting things, and that's worth talking about, even if it's sort of trying to be a puzzle game that's too easy to be a puzzle game, and it's trying to be a systemic game that's too simple to be a systemic game. It doesn't really work. But the ideas are better than the actual game, if that makes any sense.
Yeah, I found the response to Harry's video really interesting. It's really funny.
Yeah, I had to hold off watching Harry's video because I was in the middle of making mine. So, all right, I don't want to unintentionally steal any of this. I'll hold off.
Those people
made mine and come back, and then I watched it. I was like, oh, okay. We've come up with the same idea from opposite directions.
Yeah,
that's fine with me.
It's interesting that you're one of those people that, if you're working on a video, you won't look at anybody else's video. Until you finish it.
At a certain point, I'd sequester myself so as to not pollute the experience. But yeah, I think just that one in particular, I saw the title and I was like, oh god, okay, this might be exactly the same as the thing I'm saying. I'd rather have that be a coincidence than have the knowledge in the back of my head that, oh, did I just steal someone else's better ideas?
I'm the opposite. I will watch videos, and I actually think that stealing is awesome.
Yeah, well, honestly, I'm a huge hypocrite saying that, oh, I want this, oh, I want a critical landscape, I want us to refer to each other, and then I don't watch a video that's like directly adjacent to the one that I was working on.
Yeah, so yeah, like that's what I'm saying is that you did that sort of unintentionally, but it was still interesting. But the result of it was still interesting, where like you basically like took what you didn't take, but like Harry's points like stand alone and is a very good video, but like you sort of took that and sort of like went a bit further into like how this sort of idea that Terra Nil introduces can be seen and used in a lot more games, and that was really neat and cool. So you're at the time of this video is no longer the latest because he uploaded a video like 30 minutes ago. I also want to talk about I also want to talk about your video about creativity in video games and how this sort of like relates to the creative process in general, like while making YouTube, because you talk about how like creativity isn't rewarded in games, right?
Mm-hmm.
And like generally, creativity is often not rewarded extrinsically. I don't know if that's the right word.
Yeah, I think you're right there. Yeah.
Yeah, it's like an extrinsic versus intrinsic thing, right?
Yeah. Like YouTube doesn't reward creativity often either. Or like
I don't know.
generally.
Have you seen that chicken sandwich review video?
I literally just watched it. It's the most.
I
wish I could make something with that much artistic integrity.
Oh my god. So,
like
for those who don't know,
video on the planet.
He's got like 7 cameras, and he keeps doing really strange things, and it's mesmerizing.
It's so
okay.
good.
So
It's
yeah,
amazing.
for those of you who don't know what we're talking about, right? I think it's Joe is hungry. Is it
Yeah,
Joe is hungry?
It's like
something like that. I'm looking it up to see the exact name, but I think it's
like
Joe is hungry. He does food reviews, and they are a step above
So
high
good.
effort. There's like James Hotsider sent it to the Discord, and the message he sent it with was, "There's high effort, and then there's whatever this is." And like 5 cameras inside the car, switching between them needlessly while doing this awesome flair in the way he talks and moves, clapping in transitions. It's so good.
It's just so many specific things.
Yeah,
like he measures the temperature of the
so
of
that
the
they
food.
seem robotic, measuring the temperature of the food. Goddamn, they're best reviews.
Does it all.
I'm gonna say it. Best food reviews on YouTube, definitely.
It's so. Sorry, carry on.
I want him on the podcast now. I'm gonna reach out to him.
Yeah, I didn't think it was possible to do like a maximalist food review, but he totally pulled it off. Like, I'm not sure it was good, but I'm definitely entertained.
Maximalist food review. That's exactly what it is. Oh my god.
So Adam, at the end of at the end of your next video, you're going to be like, I found this great channel. It's called Joe is Hungry.
I
You
don't know.
imagine trying to like explain what that channel is at the end.
It's like, yeah, all right, hear me out. He does reviews of fast food chicken sandwiches, but just trust me on this one.
I know it's not game design, but like you're gonna have to
But
broaden
in
your
a sense,
horizons a bit, viewers.
isn't it?
Wow. I bet he could do
I
it.
do want.
He can do whatever he wants.
Yeah.
I am curious to see what would happen if you make like a really weird recommendation someday. Like, I don't know what an
not just
example.
YouTube channels that you recommend, though, right? It's I think
Yeah, I've done a
recent-
couple of like podcasts and like charity things and documentaries and stuff. It's not just YouTube; it predominantly is.
Yeah. I just wonder, like, what would be a thing.
just like at the end of the video, the Big Tasty is back at McDonald's, and you should really try it.
That's like that's the silent alarm for if I've completely lost any and all creative integrity. If I turn the shout out into an ad
sponsorship.
plug, then
Yeah.
come round to my house and destroy my computer.
Heard it here first.
Like a non-existent burger at McDonald's. Like,
Oh, now a fake burger from a pretend fast food I do as a joke. That's a good
Yeah.
idea. I might do that.
the Burger King Yumbo Burger. Like what? Hasn't been a thing since the 70s or whatever. Yeah, but the latest Adam Millard recommendation. And this is to circle back to the,
Yeah, what
the
were we
topic
talking
about
about?
creativity, right?
I don't know.
We're
we
talking
totally...
about creativity on YouTube.
Oh, yes, that's why.
Ah,
yes.
yeah, of course.
Yeah. So that's another reason why like creators and commenters and like word of mouth and creator shoutouts and recommendations are what like reward creativity on YouTube. It's people seeing something and being like, oh shit, this is amazing, and then recommending it to others and sending it to their friends and stuff
Like
like
we've
that.
just done, I
So-
guess.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which is exactly what we just did with Joe is Hungry. So like it was a really interesting topic to see how how creativity can get rewarded in games. It's really something that like it's really something that I didn't really think about that much. I guess a lot of people sort of take it for granted, you know?
Yeah, I think it's the one thing it made me think of, Adam, when you were talking about Minecraft and building a house. I could heavily relate to that, just building like just a cube with a bed in it, pretty much.
I got a lot of shit for that, but it's true.
It's true, it's correct. And then funnily enough, I think one thing that actually goes towards fixing that kind of problem is modded Minecraft.
Absolutely.
Because
Yeah,
then
I
it's like
vastly prefer
every
World of
single
Warcraft.
room that you make has like a purpose. Like this is the room where, all of my power gets generated, or maybe you get to build like an actual water mill that functions and works, and it sort of adds a whole new element to the game where you're no longer just building cubes. You're building actual buildings that have purpose, and the game sort of inspires you to give the more creative parts of the game a try.
So actually, on that note, like a large inspiration for that video was a very long modded Minecraft playthrough I did with a bunch of friends, and one thing that I think the mod pack is called SevTech. I think it's got some flaws, but one thing it did really well is that it forces you to build actual structures that have a physical presence in the world to get stuff done. Like a key progression milestone is building a big aqueduct, and you need to build these huge conveyor belt chains with big massive machines in that take up physical space instead of just being like a little block that does stuff. And that eventually we ended up with like a whole town that we'd organically created just as a process of the progressing through the quest chain, which was awesome to like look back on. And I think a lot of the time, particularly vanilla Minecraft, sure, the game empowers creativity, but it doesn't really give you any impetus to do any of that.
Yeah.
Which was sort of the point of the video.
Yeah, because like a whole thing in games is oftentimes the player is the problem, and the big problem here is that you need to actually make the player be creative, or like give him a slight push, and here's where there's variances. Like some people will be creative even if you give them nothing, even if you like don't give them even if you don't give them a push at all. Like no matter what environment or tools you give them, and they'll find a way to be creative with it. Or some will be that fucking guy and not be creative, or no matter what you do, and you just can't deal with that. So creativity is really interesting to work with in games like that. Was super like interesting to like talk about that. So
Yeah, that's kind of the. Oh, sorry, carry on.
So something you brought up, which was great, was fighting games. And fighting game. So my introduction to fighting games was Guilty Gear Strive. And there's a character.
It's a hell of an introduction.
Yeah. So there's a character in Guilty Gear called Nagoriyuki. Do you know about Guilty
I
Gear?
have almost no familiarity with Guilty Gear, but
Okay, so
do go on.
Nagoriyuki is this big, huge samurai guy, and the thing with him is that all of his moves combo into all of his other moves. So, like, basically, no matter what you do with this character, it will combo in some way. Like, he can turn any hit he gets into a combo, and he does a shit ton of damage, and he has a lot of range. His special attacks are very powerful, but his gimmick is that if you do specials, you expend a resource, and if you do too much and run out of that resource, you basically explode, and you take a lot of damage, and the opponent can punish you heavily. So basically, the world is your oyster. You can do any moves you want and combo however the hell you want, but if you do it too much, you die. And going from that to Street Fighter, which is super restrictive in how you do combos and what moves link to what other moves, was so jarring.
Yeah, it's an element of Street Fighter that I don't really like, is there is a lot of rote memorization involved of what actually you're allowed to do.
Yeah. It was really jarring to go from Guilty Gear, the world is your oyster, you can do whatever you want, to Street Fighter, very methodical, specific things you can do. The creativity comes from how you open up your opponent and how you mix up defensive options, because your opponent also has very specific things they can do, and they know the specific things that you can do. So, like, you need to be creative on how to approach them and mix them up.
Yeah, well, I think that's. I can't remember if I mentioned that in the video directly or not, but I think that is like sometimes sometimes limitless potential actually ends up stifling creativity much more than interesting restrictions.
Yes. Yeah, that's true for like hardware limitations too in games. But it was just a really interesting point to think about, because I prefer the Guilty Gear approach more, and I'm still getting used to the Street Fighter approach because Street Fighter 6 came out recently and I'm playing it a bit.
Yep.
But goddamn, I don't
given up on
think
Street Fighter.
there's I don't think there's more. I don't think there's games that reward creativity more than fighting games.
Yeah, it's an unconventional thing to think about, because obviously, you think creative, you think, building games, art games, and whatever. But I think the limitless potential for reaction and interaction that comes from facing off against another person, or at least with systems designed to interface with other people, are just as creative as any sort of more traditional artistic game.
Yeah, I think video essays should talk about competitive games more.
It's so hard, though. It's so hard. I've tried it. I've got so many failed scripts. It's so difficult.
It's very difficult. Like, well, I think me and Harry both love Dota, and it's really hard to talk about the game because I'm so bad at
Dota.
it.
It's like, where do you even start?
It's like, okay, right. So yeah, like before we can even start talking about Dota, it needs to come with the caveat that you're going to spend 500 hours not having fun learning a bit of Russian, and then it's sort of going to be very confusing, and then you'll have learned enough at the game to hate all the people you play with, but in a way that's that isn't done anywhere else.
Yeah,
there's 100 different heroes.
Whenever
they're all weird and broken.
Mm-hmm. God, that's everything. There's like so many things in Dota that are just like conceptually broken, and they're all in there. They're all in there.
Genuinely, it's a game that I think is, in terms of game design references to look at and learn from, Dota is so far up the list, and yet it's impossible to recommend because you won't appreciate it until you've ruined your life.
That's the thing, right? Whenever I try talking about a competitive game, the reason it's so hard is because in order to explain any point about it adequately, you need to add like an hour's worth of context.
Yeah, and I don't want to do that. I think Ayamera Evelyn made a video that was really good. I think it's something called like everybody has a plan until they get punched in the mouth, or something like that.
Oh yes.
It was really good because it was basically it was kind of a video on competitive games, right? But it was a video on competitive games in the sort of more abstract sense. Like she didn't talk about any specific. She didn't talk about like the entire time talking about Dota 2 or whatever, and like beforehand she wasn't like, in Dota 2 you have to do this and that and the other. Like she just kind of talked about it. It was a really good video.
Yeah, I think that's something. I think there's a real temptation to do that, and it's something I fall into a lot. Is you feel the need to explain the video game you're going to talk about, like, in the Hello Kitty Island Adventure, a game in which you are Hello Kitty and go on an island adventure, is like the video and the context in which you're explaining it does 90% of that work for you, and you don't actually need to put that in the script, but because you're the one writing it and because that stuff hasn't materialized yet, you feel the need to do it.
Yes, I think it's very easy to like forget that you're making a video when you're doing that, and you're like, okay, well, what if the viewer doesn't know what Hello Kitty Island Adventure is? But it's like they're going to be watching it, they're going to see Hello Kitty Island Adventure on the screen and get some kind of idea as to what's going on.
Yeah, and also even for games people haven't heard of, a lot of the time they're familiar with what video games look like and how they work, and so you can just show them any platformer, even if they've never played it before, and they'll get what's going on pretty intuitively.
Yeah.
Yes, exactly.
Sometimes you need to you don't need to write for that fucking guy. You know?
Yeah, I think it's a good rule of thumb is that catering to far end of the bell curve pedants is a battle you cannot win and should not fight.
Yeah. Like, just assume they have some familiarity with it. Skip a lot of the context and sort of exposition, I guess you can call it. And yeah, maybe even like competitive games that usually need a lot like a really deep understanding of a lot of like their nature and mechanics. You can like make interesting points about. Leon
I'd love to do
Massey
it one day.
is a YouTuber who like makes really good video essays on competitive games, and I wanna try doing that. Like I want to talk more about fighting games. I want to talk more about like fighting games basically because those are the competitive
The
games. I
only two
play.
competitive games that Doug Phone is fighting games and fighting games.
Yeah, in the middle of that sentence, I realized that fighting games are the only competitive games I play.
I want to talk about League of Legends.
Why would anyone talk about that?
Exactly. Exactly.
I used to play League of Legends, not anymore though.
Same.
Yeah, which good.
Never got into it.
My games were toxic because I was toxic.
Pretty
That's not
much.
good.
Yeah. No,
Yeah.
speaking as a reformed toxic gamer, and I see where Dark Ride's coming from.
Yeah. I used to play Singed, man.
Is he the poison man?
Yeah.
See, I still know
by
all
definition
all of the
toxic.
legends.
Yep. All of the legends.
All of the
in the
legends
league.
in League of Legends.
Yeah, that's what they're called. They're called legends.
People get upset, don't they, when they like refer to the champions in League of Legends as heroes and the heroes in Dota 2 as champions.
Look,
It's just a thing that upsets people.
this is just a small YouTube tip for anyone in the audience. If you want to just sort of get a free engagement tick, do that sort of stuff deliberately.
Yeah, like mispronounce a word.
Everything.
Yep.
Or so one thing I did in a video once, I talked about John Carmack, and I showed a picture of John Romero,
That's a good one. That's really good.
Good, yeah.
and
Especially like old school FPS people will definitely call you out on that.
This is good. We need more stuff. What else can we do? I'm
I
enjoying
got a
this.
comment. I got a comment that was like, that's John Romero, and I was like, yes.
Oh, that's good. Oh, what else could you do? I feel like there's so many things you could do. It's just annoy people.
Yeah.
This is where we're at now.
I don't know.
Let's do it.
Say GIF instead of GIF.
Well, let's not go. Well, let's not go too
Hang on.
far.
Hang on.
Yeah, we need a line.
Okay, other ideas.
A lot of the time, I will, whenever I mention a game and show the box art, I will just show the wrong box art or a box art or logo that is adjacent but incorrect. I don't think I've ever actually shown the Pokemon logo. I'll always do Digimon.
I remember that when
that-
you showed
as a-
Prey. You showed like
Yes,
the
I did
old
the original
version of
Prey.
Prey. I was like,
Yeah, it's both a funny joke and often it sort of, as we said at the beginning, it deliberately antagonizes people in a way that's it's not mean spirited, but it makes people feel things, and that is the job of art at the end of the day.
Yeah, I don't even remember what game I was talking about there, but instead of its box art, I showed Tony Hawk Pro Skater 2. You know, stuff like
Just
like that.
do that for all of
Fun.
them. Every single game is just
So you
Tony Hawk.
like,
Tony Hawk Tony Hawk Pro Skater 2. I went to a game development talk that was like hosted in my university by someone, and the speaker started with, the first slide was a Confucius quote, and it was like about learning by doing or something like that, and I yelled out, "Yo, Confucius is my favorite game designer." and the speaker instantly went, "Oh yeah, what games did he make?"
Okay, that's good.
And
I wasn't sure at first.
and I answered Tony Hawk Pro Skater 2. So from that point, whenever I needed like a random game to show, I always show Tony Hawk Pro Skater 2. I think I'll make it a thing. I'll do it more often.
Just edit whatever you want in there. Adam, I feel like your videos are sort of like very dense in how you edit them. It's really cool. Like it almost feels like there's two wolves, right? You know, the thing where it's like one is editor Adam Millard, and the other one is Adam Millard that conceptualizes and writes the video, and then like when it comes to the editor Adam Millard just lets loose and just does whatever he wants with the video.
Yeah. So
it's great.
I think a lot of people say that. So that I definitely think that my videos have sort of a little bit of an ADHD vibe to them, where there's always things moving and flying around on the screen at all times, and there's text that moves too fast for you to possibly read. And ultimately, I think that just comes from me getting really bored editing because I hate doing it, and so I will make jokes in the video, and I will sort of put in way too much effort and like reinstall games to make sure that the text matches up and is timed perfectly with random lines to make some sort of obscure visual pun, purely for the purposes of just not going insane while editing. And I think it's kind of become part of the visual identity of the channel, because I don't have the artistic skills to make nice graphs or to quote people properly or do any of the actual professional things. So it's just like you can watch the video on purely audio mode and learn something, or you can watch it in video mode and be constantly distracted by me making stupid jokes.
You're just like,
Yeah.
you watch the video and then like 5 seconds later you'll be like, wait, that was a joke back then. I was like,
Yeah.
I just missed that.
Yeah, the joke density is basically directly correlative with how boring I think that paragraph is.
It's good. I'm here for it. I think it's great.
No, the moment I was like, you were talking about there's some point where like you talk about beats, like story beats, and a radish shows up, and
Yeah.
after a while I was like, wait, was that a radish? like on the screen in my Adam Millard video?
I think it was supposed to be a beetroot.
Beetroot,
But
yes.
Are they not the same thing?
I think a radish and a beetroot are different, right?
They
I could
they
be
are
wrong.
different, yes.
Yes.
Come on, Doug.
All right,
They're-
fine,
they're-
I'll Google
there's-
if
I think
it's
radishes
like
are the same as beets.
Similarly shaped vegetable, but I believe they're different. Can't
Radish
believe.
the same as beets.
Okay.
Radishes
Press-
and
press
beets
your
are
buzzers.
two different vegetables. Okay, I am
Yes.
stupid.
Can't believe
Is that suggesting that they've made it like an article for that?
it's a commonly asked question.
Just like, man, all these people out there confusing radishes for beetroots.
How dare they? So circling back to doing things that really piss off people. Another thing they hate is when I end Video Gems episodes abruptly. That's it for this episode of Video Gems, everyone.
What? No. That's it. I'll put an angry comment on this for ending it too soon.
Thank you all for watching. Adam, plug your things.
Watch me on YouTube, or I'll say more self-deprecating things about myself and make Dark Fried cry.
I'm not. I won't
That's
cry.
actually
You'll
a
be
really
crying.
severe threat. That is.
It's bad. This is serious. YouTube.com/architectofgames. Watch my videos.
Everybody,
Hell yeah.
go to YouTube. Type in
Watch
youtube.com.
Adam's videos.
Adam Millard,
watch the
Architect of
videos of the
Games.
people he recommends.
You know that the image of the person holding a rat in a threatening manner is that, but dark fry, and it's my hand.
Yeah, I'll make that image specifically. For this. All right, so
Put that
thumbnail.
over where my face should be for the entire podcast.
They'll be like, why is he holding a rat?
Yeah, it'll only
Yes,
become
that's a
relevant in the
brilliant
last
idea.
minute.
Oh, that's so good.
all right. So yeah, patreon.com/darkfry, patreon.com/architectofgames. Harry, you have a Patreon too, right?
No.
You don't?
I don't.
Right, you don't.
I take money from people for making YouTube videos? I don't know, I probably should.
Harry's not a hack fraud.
God damn.
You should definitely get a Patreon. You deserve to get paid for the things you make.
Probably should.
So yeah, like, subscribe, do all the podcast and YouTube things. We'll see you next time, folks.
Bye bye.
Goodbye.